It was just before 4 in the morning. The Red Sea, calm but tense. Aboard the USS Harry S. Truman, sailors were going through routine checks when the alarms blared. A heat signature had locked onto them. Without warning, the ship banked hard to avoid impact, but in the chaos, something else was lost. An FA-18 Super Hornet, $70 million in hardware, snapped its mooring cables and slid off the deck. It plunged into the ocean like a fallen eagle. The strike never landed, but the war had just begun. The missile had been launched by the Houthis, an Iran-backed militant faction entrenched in Yemen. And with that one near miss, a conflict half a world away became personal, fast, and painfully real for those on crew. What followed would be codenamed Operation Roughrider, but in the halls of power, there was nothing rough about it. It was calculated. March 15th, 2025. President Donald Trump authorizes one of the most aggressive air campaigns since the early 2000s. The target? Houthi militants in Yemen. The goal? Protect freedom of navigation in the Red Sea and stamp out threats to US and allied vessels. At a press briefing later that day, Trump defended the action, declaring that the US would not sit back while American ships are targeted. He called it peace through strength. And so Operation Roughrider began. Fighter jets roared from carriers, missiles rained from the sky, and a new chapter of shadow war was written. Over 800 airstrikes would follow in the coming weeks, hitting radar facilities, ballistic launch sites, and drone assembly labs buried beneath Sanaa's outskirts. The Pentagon called it precision warfare. The Houthis called it murder. Their spokesperson, Mohammed Abdusalam, condemned what he described as brutal crime by the American administration and warned retaliation would come swiftly. April 28th, a strike lands in Sadr, but instead of a command post or launch pad, the missile tears through a migrant detention center. Inside, over 100 African migrants, many fleeing poverty and conflict, were locked in limbo. By morning, 68 were dead, 47 more were wounded. The air was thick with smoke and thicker with confusion. They hadn't picked up arms, they weren't fighters, they were just there. The US military acknowledged the reports and stated that they were conducting a full damage assessment. No admission, no denial, just fog. In Geneva, UN spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric condemned the incident, emphasizing that civilians are not and must never be targets. The Red Cross called the scene unthinkable, but the war machine kept humming. 2 days later, April 30th, the United Kingdom joins the operation. RAF Typhoon jets scream over the Yemen skies, striking what officials describe as drone development and launch sites. At Whitehall, Britain's Defense Secretary declared the move was necessary to uphold maritime security and international law. But critics at home weren't convinced. Thousands protested outside Parliament, chanting, "Not in our name." Meanwhile in Yemen, buildings lay in ruins, and amid the wreckage, civilians wondered what laws permitted missiles to fall so close to cradles. US Central Command released figures shortly after. Since the first strike, Houthi ballistic launches dropped by 69%, drone attacks down 55%. The number painted a picture of strategic success. A CENTCOM briefing stated plainly, "Our objectives have been met, American and international lives have been protected." But on the ground, Houthi fighters adapt, tunnel networks deepen, launch platforms grow more mobile, and in their local broadcasts, they of course refer to themselves not as terrorists, but as David facing Goliath. Because war, after all, is about story just as much as strategy. Outside the blast zones, another battle rages, the moral one. Human rights observers argue that precision means nothing if the wrong buildings are targeted, and even the right strike can turn fatal when civilians are used as shields, or simply live too close. A former CIA analyst weighed in anonymously, stating, "You can't bomb ideology out of existence. You might kill a leader, but you create 10 martyrs doing it." Even allies were uneasy. Germany and France have withheld support. The UN debates escalate, and the question echoes across the chamber. When does defense become destruction? Operation Roughrider isn't over. The strikes continue, more targeted, more discreet, but no less lethal. To date, over 1,200 are reported dead. How many were combatants? No one knows for sure. What we do know is that when steel falls from the sky, the lines blur. And yet, in a world wide for witnessing, where satellites can live stream scars and war is uploaded in real time, perhaps the most powerful weapon left is attention, because when we stop watching, the silence becomes complicity, and in that silence, the next strike waits. This has been WarTech. Thank you for joining.